This is one of the most highly anticipated sneaker releases of the entire year, but is it just a big disappointment? Let's find out. Alright, so I've been anticipating this pair of sneakers for months, and it's finally here. I'm so excited about it. I actually bought two pairs already. I haven't even seen it yet. I bought a pair from GOAT and a pair from Fine Line 1721. The pair from GOAT came in first because I got instant ship on it. Let's check it out. I almost cut myself just there. Let's see if this pair was worth the months of waiting. Obviously, you guys know what it is from the title and the thumbnail, but for me, this is exciting. Look at this. Oh my gosh. So this box is sort of a flipped version of the Reimagined Air Jordan 1 Chicago's, which actually, let me grab really quick because I want to kind of compare the two boxes. Alright, so here's the Chicago box. Here is the brand new box for the Air Jordan 1 Reimagined UNC's. And I'm interested to see what would happen if I did this. There you go. The colors are perfect too, like the orange is the exact orange of this box. It's so funny that they did that. I wonder if they had planned doing that all along. Just want to try that out, see how it looked. But yeah, the box does come with a black box top, a mismatched box top. You've got this orange Nike box, which of course is the same color of orange that you get on the Chicago box. Obviously the box was designed to look aged. You've got worn areas and the edges are kind of scratched down, and you've got some like, I don't know, faded printing on the top, or it's supposed to be faded printing. On the sides, you've got the same sort of deal on the bottom part of the box, and you've got the Nike logo on both the top and also all of the sides. But yeah, pretty cool packaging. I love when Jordan Brand switches things up, and I love when they have little Easter eggs of like the mismatched box top that matches perfectly with the other Reimagined ones. I think that's awesome. This is a size 9, which is my true size right there. It looks like there was also, yeah, there's a price tag right there in the box, which I'm assuming did come on the box originally, and it looks like it was covered up by the GOAT tag. Maybe this wasn't supposed to come in the box, I don't know, but there is a sticker on there that looks like it's part of the packaging. And the colorway is DK Powder Blue, DK Powder Blue, possibly dark powder blue is my guess. But I guess without further ado, let's pop the box open, see what we got. Okay, so first things first, we did get a little sneak peek of the shoes right there. First things first, we got the GOAT card. We've got a lace that's kind of out of the shoe. And then here they are, the shoes themselves. Whew, look at these. I've been waiting for these for so long. Okay, so the laces are a little disheveled in this box, it looks like. But we do have a set of blue laces, if you decide you want to switch them out, some UNC blue laces. And of course the white laces, which are pre-started in the shoe. I'm gonna go with the white laces. I kind of like that vibe. But that seems to be pretty much everything inside the box. You do get brown paper, which is kind of nice. It's not like the Chicago's, which had, what was it, newspaper paper? Let me see. Yeah, the Chicago's had newspaper paper. So let's lace these guys up, try them on, see how they fit. All right, so of course I got a new pair of shoes to show you, and I think you might like these, because I know you like blue Jordans. So these are a re-release or a reimagining of one of the OG Air Jordan 1 colorways, UNC. It's based off of Michael Jordan's alma mater, University of North Carolina. And I want to know what you'd rank it out of 10.
They're really nice. I like the bright blue.
Right? Would you rock these?
Probably.
So you love mauve, or whatever it is. Would you rock these more than those, the mauve ones that you have?
Probably not, just because that's my color. My wardrobe is
Gotcha.
full of that. So, what is there, like a texture around the
Yeah,
ankle?
it's like cracked leather.
Yeah,
so.
it's neat.
Okay, out of 10, what do you give it?
Probably an 8.
Okay. Let me throw them on feet, see if your rating changes at all. Also, not even on purpose, I'm just rocking them right now. We got the upcoming Apothecary Heat Map collection. I got the blue. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, I did put on this color because I thought it would match nicely with the shoes, but I was gonna wear the Heat Maps anyway. The Heat Map socks dropping this Friday upcoming, I think. Apothecary.com, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, apthcry.com, with the shirt that you guys have seen me wearing tons of videos for the last couple months.
I love those socks.
These do look good on foot though, I'm not gonna lie. All right, so as far as sizing goes, I mean, it's your standard Jordan 1 sizing, true to size. I wouldn't do anything differently. Yeah, I mean, Jordan 1s are Jordan 1s are Jordan 1s. The sizing barely ever changes. But these are true to size, and that's what I recommend if you're grabbing these for yourself. On foot, does it change your opinion at all, or is it still the same sort of vibe?
I mean, it's definitely like a solid 8, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, they look good.
I agree. I'd probably give it I might give it an 8 or a 9. Maybe 8.5. Solid 8.5.
Yeah.
All right, back to the studio. The UNC colorway of the Air Jordan 1 is one of the few original Air Jordan 1 colorways that released back in 1985. And 2025 being the 40th anniversary of the Air Jordan 1, it makes sense that Jordan Brand is bringing back so many classic colorways like the UNCs and even the Bred ones. However, for this last cycle of retros that we've been getting since like 2022, rather than giving us the original colorway on a standard Air Jordan 1 silhouette or Air Jordan silhouette, they've been reimagining them, which can mean a lot of different things. With the Air Jordan 1 Royal reimagines, we got a suede Air Jordan 1. With the Air Jordan 1 Chicago Lost and Found reimagines, we got an aged version of the shoe. The Air Jordan 4 Bred reimagines, they switched out the suede to a leather, and so on and so forth. And it seems like for this new Air Jordan 1 UNC or powder blue that's releasing in May, they're going back to this sort of Lost and Found vibe, that aged look, which back in 2022 for the Chicago Lost and Founds proved to be very popular. But will it be as popular on this colorway in 2025? But getting into the release info, this shoe drops on May 10th for a retail price of $180. And of course, if you want to grab a pair of these early, I've made sure to link them through the YouTube shopping tab on your screen. And for whatever reason, over the last week, resale prices have plummeted down to like $200 something. So if you want to grab a pair, now is not a bad time. We'll get more into the resale price fluctuation later on in the video, but usually when the resale price of a shoe drops right before the sneaker releases, or like even a month before the sneaker releases, it means that it's not as popular as everyone thought that it was going to be. But hey, resale price shouldn't determine whether you like a shoe or not like a shoe, so let's dive into what makes this actual shoe special. So the last time we had the Air Jordan 1 UNC colorway release was 10 years ago in 2015. And what's funny is that the pair that we got 10 years ago was actually the remastered version of the powder blues, meaning that it was supposed to be just like the originals. However, if you look at the silhouette of that shoe versus the Air Jordan 1s from 85, they look pretty different. And one thing I loved about that pair of sneakers, which I was actually never able to grab, was how good it looked on foot. It was bright white, it was bright blue, it just popped. It was a sick colorway. And as we'll talk more about as we get farther into the review, because of some of the materials used on this shoe, it doesn't pop as much as it used to. But getting into some of the history of the powder blue Air Jordan 1s, obviously this colorway is inspired by Michael Jordan's alma mater UNC. While I'm sure they can't officially call this shoe the UNC Air Jordan 1s, the powder blue that they use on the upper looks just like UNC's colors. And because Michael Jordan played for UNC in college, this powder blue has been found on countless retros over the years, most recently the Lucky Shorts 3s, because obviously those were UNC inspired shoes. But even as someone who loves black and red Air Jordan 1s, this blue colorway is a really nice change up, and while yes it is an OG colorway, it's one that we really don't get a lot of retros of. I mean, obviously, the last retro we got was 10 years ago. So when I heard this shoe was returning, I think last year from some rumors, maybe from Z Sneakerheads or Sneaker News or something like that, I was really excited because I've never owned an OG Air Jordan 1 High UNC. But after seeing official images of these shoes and getting them in hand, while I'm still very excited, I wish they were just the standard Air Jordan 1s. I think reimagining Air Jordan sneakers is a cool concept. I think sometimes they do it really, really well, other times they do it really, really poorly. But in this case, it's okay, but I kind of wish we just got the standard UNC ones. But with that being said, diving into the sneaker, around the toe of the shoe, you've got this really nice powder blue leather. Based on the way that it looks and it feels, it doesn't honestly feel that different from standard Air Jordan 1 leather. In fact, I don't think it is. I mean, compared to the Lost and Founds, the leather on the overlays seems pretty similar. As you move up on the shoe to the toe, you get to this off-white colored cracked leather. Now, the cracked leather paneling on this shoe is a part of the sneaker that I just don't love. And I know it's the exact same material we got on the Chicago 1 Lost and Founds. I mean, it literally, to the T, looks almost exactly the same color, same everything. But for some reason, maybe it's because we've gotten more retros of this, it feels like we haven't gotten enough UNC Air Jordan 1s recently to get this shoe and not get an original version of it. Like sure, the last time the Chicago's released before the Lost and Founds was back in 2015, but these released in 2022. That was only 7 years later. We're supposed to get an 85 cut of this shoe next year. We've had a couple different lows. Before 2015, we had a bunch of retros of this shoe, so I just feel like there hasn't been enough UNCs to really make me want this to be my main pair of UNCs. Now that of course is all my own personal preference, and overall, I really like this shoe a lot, and I'm happy that we're just getting it in general, but if I had my way, I probably would have preferred just a standard Air Jordan 1 UNC without the cracked leather. I understand the theming of this shoe. I loved it on the Lost and Founds. That's one of the reasons why I think that shoe was Sneaker of the Year in 2022. It was designed to look like a shoe that's been in a box for the last, 33 years at that point, or oh my gosh, how long ago did that shoe? 3 years ago, so 32 years? And I really like the fact that Jordan Brand made the box that this shoe comes in literally be a mismatched version of the Chicago box, so it's kind of like someone took the box tops and switched them. I think that's really cool, and I think that the material usage on this shoe, like the Lost and Founds, is also great. So all the good stuff that I said about the Lost and Founds still applies to this shoe. I mean, it's literally just basically a different colorway of the Lost and Founds, if you want to phrase it that way. It's literally exactly what it is, but I just feel like we haven't gotten enough UNCs for me to be more excited about this than a standard pair. But I digress. As you continue up on the shoe to the eye stay of the sneaker, you get to more of this really nice powder blue leather paneling, and weaving through the eyelets of the shoe, you get these flat white laces, which are the laces that come pre-started in the shoe. As you saw when we were unboxing this pair of sneakers, it does come with a blue set of laces if you decide to switch them out, but on the powder blues, I just like the way that the white laces look. I know I go back and forth on the white laces and the laces that sort of match the eye stays of the sneaker. I do it all the time. In this case, with the Chicagos, I went with black because I feel like black is the color that it's supposed to go with. I don't know what it is. With the UNCs, I feel like white is the color you're supposed to go with. With the Breads, I like the black. It really just depends. But on this shoe, I went with white, and I think that's what a lot of people are going to go with too, mainly because it's pre-started in the shoe and people just don't want to switch them out. Underneath the laces, you've got a white nylon tongue. The nylon is, of course, pretty thin, so you can actually see the yellow foam underneath, which gives it this sort of light tan color, which I actually really like. Towards the top of the tongue, you've got this white tag with the Nike Air branding embroidered in blue. And then moving inside the shoe, you get to this UNC blue sock liner, which feels very soft and very nicely padded. And rounding off the inside of the shoe, you've got a white insole with the Nike Air branding printed on the heel in blue. As for sizing, as I mentioned, this shoe does seem to fit pretty much true to size. It feels just like every other pair of Air Jordan 1s. Jordan brand sizing is very consistent and it's very on point. I've never really had a problem with any of the retro sneakers unless they're like a special edition made in a different material or something like that. Generally, if you're making a pair of Jordans in the same leathers or suedes that you usually make it in, it usually fits the same. From what I can tell, Jordan brand does not often change the lasts that they use to make the retro sneakers, so the sizing of the shoes will generally not change. But again, if you can try on this pair of shoes first before you buy it and you've never owned a pair of Air Jordan 1s, I would recommend trying it on just to make sure that you're grabbing the right size for you. Moving back on the shoe, we have more of that aged look with the cracked white leather on the midfoot panel, again designed to look like it's been in a box for the last 40 years. It's funny, because of the way that they did the boxes, I can only assume that this sort of fictional sneaker store that they've created to house the lost and found sneakers for the last 40 years is the same sneaker store for both the UNCs and the Chicagos, because maybe the owner switched out the box tops or something like that. I don't know. I do love the thought that went into this shoe. I really like it. And to be fair, I really like this shoe a lot. Not to spoil the end of the review, but again, would have preferred a standard pair of Air Jordan 1 UNCs. One thing I do want to talk about, because a lot of people asked me about this in the Lost and Found review, is how does the cracked leather age over years? And now that I've owned this pair for 3 years and worn it a bunch, I can tell you that the cracked leather, I mean, it looks pretty much the same as it did back in 2022. So even if you wear the shoe a bunch, it's not gonna like crack off and peel off like some people might think that it would. In fact, I wouldn't have been surprised if that had happened, but it did not happen on my pair. I wore it a bunch, and even on the toe where it's creasing, no cracking, no peeling, no issues like that. The surface treatment that they used actually seems to be holding up really, really well. Over top of the cracked white leather, you've got this bright powder blue Nike swoosh, and then just above that, you've got this bright powder blue wing with the Wings logo, sort of, I guess that's pressed into the shoe in bright white. Well, it's more of a deboss because it kind of comes out of the shoe, but the edges are pressed into the shoe, and then it's kind of painted on top. So I don't really, that's how I describe it. Now underneath that blue panel, you get to the most aged detail of the shoe, and that is the leather used around the top of the ankle. Now this leather is very, very cracked, almost hairy at this point. It's actually, I would say, even more cracked than the leather used in the Lost and Founds. Yeah, definitely. And again, this is designed to look like the way that leather would crack after it's been sitting around for 40 years. Actually, funny story, why have I not brought this up? I have a pair of 40-year-old Jordan 1s right there. Let's compare it. So here are my 40-year-old OG Air Jordan 1 Breads from 1985, and comparing the heel of the shoe, the leather does look similar. Now the 40-year-old pair definitely has the leather cracking off a bit more than the new pair, but it does have a very, very similar effect, so I really like the way that they did that. Now I will say that the actual leather panel on the midfoot and on the toe doesn't seem to be cracking whatsoever on the 40-year-old pair, so I don't know how I feel about that detail, but around the heel, yeah, that's pretty accurate, I'd say. You know, I never actually thought about that. The leather on the Chicagos is cracked, the leather on the UNCs is cracked, but the leather on the actual 40-year-old pair is not cracked. I wonder if it's because the shoe is worn, maybe if it's actually stored in a box, it does crack because of moisture or something like that, I have no idea. But either way, the ankle area of the shoe, pretty on point. Rounding up the heel of the shoe, you've got more of that powder blue leather, and of course on the medial side of the shoe, it's pretty much the same as the lateral side except without the Wings logo. Then moving down on the sneaker, you've got this off-white or cream-colored midsole designed to look artificially aged, or I guess actually aged. Now it is definitely creamier, I would say, than the Lost and Found ones, so I guess they changed up the way that they wanted to do that. The Lost and Founds does definitely have an off-white color or a cream-colored midsole, but it's very, very light, whereas the UNC's is definitely cream. Then we get to the bottom of the shoe, which actually also features that same treatment that you have on the Lost and Founds, and that is that it's sort of a I guess, a marbled outsole. Like they've got some white in there mixed in with the blue to make it look like it's aged or dusty or something. Now this pair I have been wearing, so it's got some yellow pollen on it. So the yellow is not actually supposed to be there, but in the B-roll it looks fresh. It looks how it was when I first pulled it out of the box. But yeah, just like the Lost and Founds, you've got white sort of marbled into the outsole. All right, I do have to say that I like this release a lot. I really love the reimagined touches on this shoe. That said, I would have preferred, and I've said this a bunch already, but I would have preferred a standard UNC. Does that take away from this shoe? No. But I do think that they should have given us the standard UNC first, and then maybe a Lost and Found. All of this, I guess, sort of light criticism that I'm giving this shoe would go away if we got a UNC Air Jordan 1 85. If we can get that, fine. Give us all the reimagines you want. Same thing with the Royals. Give us an 85 Royal, and we're good to go. But my personal wants and needs aside, I do think this is a very clean release. I kind of wish the white use on the shoe was a bit brighter, a bit more poppy, like it was in the 2015 release and on the originals. And I think that the cream that they used in the midsole is a little bit too dark. Now with that being said, do I think it's bad? No, but I think if they're going for the UNC look, give us a bit more of a white midsole, just to kind of tie it all together. Even if you're just going with the white use in the Lost and Found midsole, that sort of very light cream or off-white color, I would have preferred this to the cream just because the cream seems too yellow. Still though, I am very excited about this release. There are things I would have changed personally, but it's still a great pair of sneakers. My thought has actually changed over the last couple weeks. Initially, because I saw resale prices of the shoe in the thousands and thousands, like a month or two before it came out, maybe even 2 weeks ago, I was thinking this pair was going to be ridiculously limited. Now that people are starting to get pairs in hand, now the pairs are currently reselling for like $220 to $250, I'm thinking it's going to be a lot more widely available than I initially thought. Is it going to sell out? I don't know. I've seen people thinking that it's going to sell out immediately and people thinking it's going to go to outlets. I think it might be somewhere in the middle. I think it's going to do better than the Black Toes. I don't think it's going to sit around in stores, but I also don't think it's going to be impossible to get. I personally think it's going to be one of those shoes that you can kind of let sit over the weekend, but the following Monday, it might be very, very hard to find any pairs in store. I could be wrong. It could sell out immediately or it could be sitting in every sneaker store. I don't know, but that is my guess based on what I'm seeing on the resale market and also what Jordans seem to be doing currently. For me though, this shoe is a must-have. As an Air Jordan 1 fan, an Air Jordan 1 collector, I had to have this shoe, and I'm really glad that I got it. Even though I spent more than it's currently going for, I'm not mad about it. I think it's a shoe that I will rock a bunch this summer, definitely rocking it for Easter, and it will probably end up being one of my favorite pairs of sneakers that have dropped this year. But hey, at this point, I would love to know your thoughts on the upcoming Air Jordan 1 UNC Reimagined. Are you grabbing a pair? Are you passing on them? Do you want to grab a pair? Do you like them less now that you've seen the review? Let me know all those thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Check out my podcast, The Shoes Off Podcast. You could win a pair of Union LA Air Jordan 1s. With that being said, I'll see you all in the next one.